All right, let's get going on this sunny yet chilly March 14th, Pi Day here on the ASIJ Chofu campus. It's also 311 Awareness Raising Day with our English Circle group of kiddos. We have 40 or so ELC students outside of our window with our 6th grade design tech students partnering. So lots is happening in this week before spring break. And we're so grateful to the parents and our students who are joining us on our call today for our Mustang Connection for March of 2023. I want to do just a little overview of how we'll spend the next bit of time together and then get on really to the main attraction today, the folks we really want to hear from, which are our student leaders and some of the incredible work that they are leading here on our Chofu campus and for our community to make ASIJ a safer and more welcoming place. So just a reminder that Mustang Connections are these opportunities for parents to connect with what's happening here in the high school. It is exploring topics that are of interest to our division and certainly today, the pieces that are top of mind for our students. So we thank you for joining us. We'll do some quick introductions of who is on the call from the ASIJ side of things this morning. And then we do want to turn it over to share some of the work that our Enough is Enough group has been leading here in the high school for us. We'll give you a brief update on our counseling allocations for our juniors that went out yesterday. And we'll wrap things up with some final reminders about course registration. It's that time of year where we're looking ahead already to next school year and what is on the horizon. So with further ado, I'm going to have Brad introduce himself, then Emily, and then we'll turn it over to the Enough is Enough crew for introductions, and then we'll frame the work. All right. So take it away, Dr. A.
Hi, everyone. Good. It's Brad Augustine. I am the high school associate principal. If you don't know who I am, it's my 3rd year here at ASIJ. And I'm going to be focusing later on about some of our work on course registration, where your students are at in that process and what's going to be happening over the next couple of weeks or a couple of months, excuse me. And I'll turn it over to Emily to say hello to everyone.
Hi, everyone. I'm Emily De Leon. I'm the safeguarding coordinator. I've been able to work closely with our Enough is Enough students on the assembly and the work that they're doing that they're going to talk about. We will also give some context to that work, talk about what our next steps are. And outside of Enough is Enough in that work, I work with students and families every day, just making sure people feel safe physically and emotionally here at ASIJ. Nice to see you all.
Hi, we're all seniors. We're the student leaders of Enough is Enough. My name is Moeka Sugiyama.
I'm Hannah Ito. I'm Sola Corrado. And I'm Laura Fuji.
Fabulous. Thank you so much. We're so glad you could be here on the call with us today. We've been spending a lot of time with these incredible young leaders here in our school, and we're excited to share with you today some of the work that they've been doing. So that we can get them on with their school days as well. But we do want to spend some time really digging into the student-led advocacy that's been happening in the high school. We want to kick things off today by sharing some of the Enough is Enough stories. So I'm going to turn things over to Emily and Laura, Zola, Moeka, and Hannah to do a little chat about the work they've been doing. We may ask them some Q&A. And parents, if you have any questions as we go through the conversation with them, please feel free to pop them into the chat. Dr. A and I will keep our eye on that chat and ask any questions that are appropriate for our young people. So I'll turn it over.
So Sola, Moeka, Hannah, Laura, maybe if you guys could just start by sharing what Enough is Enough is, how it came about, and give some idea of the different projects that you guys have been working on. And then we'll zoom into the assembly and this latest work.
So Enough is Enough is basically a group of students at the school who are working together to fight sexual assault and sexual harassment that happens not on campus, but just within the student body. We noticed just from hearing things, hearing people talking, we realized it was probably an issue to a greater extent than we had imagined. And we wanted to bring the whole school on the same page about it and say, okay, look, this is a really serious issue. We all need to take it seriously and then work together to move forward. And how do we do better?
Yeah, so it's really something that started from a series of conversations, the conversations that we were having. So it really started from like a small conversation with us that like went into like an hour or something. And then we would talk to more friends and more people in our grade. And I think as seniors, looking back on our high school time at high school, we were able to recognize things that happened and were problematic that probably at the time we didn't realize was an issue. And so I think that's why this all started. And do you guys want to talk about other like projects and bits we're working on other than assembly?
Yeah, so right now we have like 40 or 50 students that are a part of this initiative. We meet once a week during lunch to kind of update everyone. But some of the projects we're working on is we're working with Miss De Leon about the safeguarding handbook and making that more accessible to students. We're working on like discussions among students and teachers. Yeah, is there anything else?
I guess we'll go into the assembly. Like, should I talk about that? Like,
Sure. Yeah,
of
I
the-
think I'll just add a couple of other awesome things you guys have done, not to totally brag about you, but they have been amazing advocates on a lot of fronts. So another one has been discipline and thinking about the way we can make some of that more transparent while also protecting student confidentiality. So there's a group that has met with Miss CM and Dr. Augustine. There's also a group that has met to improve anonymous reporting and has taken that to the Safeguarding Advisory Committee, and that change has been in effect. And then some of their work has also changed the way we've done a couple of advisory times, and I'm optimistic and hopeful that we can do that after spring break as well to keep these conversations going. And some of the members are getting some additional facilitator training this week. So the student-led discussions that they do, we'll have that training, and then hopefully those are some skills we can use later in the spring as well. Okay. There's so much more that they've done, but maybe I'll just leave it at that and let Hannah talk about the assembly.
Yeah, so our most recent like big event that we had was last Tuesday. We had a assembly about sexual assault, which was an all high school assembly, which is the photo that you see in the slideshow. But in this assembly, we had Miss Shuri Ito, who is a Japanese filmmaker, documentary filmmaker, and advocate. And she is well known for going through court with her sexual assault case, and she won her case. And so she has been an advocate since for women's rights and recognition of sexual assault. And so we had her come and talk to us about her experiences as well as how we could go forward to eliminate sexual assault within our community. And so one of the things we did in this assembly or in preparation was we created a story collection form, which we promoted around campus, and then we had over like 50 submissions, and these were anonymous stories about personal experiences with sexual assault from students as well as faculty. And so we found a way to incorporate these stories, and so we had a video produced in preparation in which we tried to demonstrate the extent to which this issue was prevalent. And yeah.
And I think that was really important, that assembly in general, because as we said, like, I think as freshmen, we didn't know that this was an issue as well. And I think a lot of people who might not hear about things that happen don't think it's an issue. But I think after that assembly, I think there's a general sense in the student body that this is an issue. And I think a lot more people are going to take it seriously. And hopefully with the future things we have, whether it be more things in advisory or working with like the health classes, maybe, like, I hope more students can take that seriously and really not only keep that lesson and take it seriously for the next generations to come into the high school, but also take those lessons into like the real world when we go to college. Like that's definitely an issue there. Yeah.
That was a great transition, Moeka. I was going to ask you all to share with the parents what you thought the key messages of the assembly were and what you think the key messages going forward are.
Yeah. I think we saw Shiori Ito as like a really amazing role model for someone who was able to use her voice to really like stand against the system and very powerful figures for positive change. And I think that's what we need at ASIJ, right? Like we need people that are, or we need everyone to be able to have more courage and be able to use their voices to really stop being a bystander in all this, because obviously a good chunk of students knew that this was an issue. So I think our general message was about using our voices and how can we do that to create a safer school environment.
Yeah, I guess also like, I think one of the big messages we wanted to like convey was for victims, like there is a support network and there are people who want to talk about the things that happen on campus that perhaps feel like are weighing people down. And I think it was a great demonstration, even just like the layout of the physical like layout of the assembly too, like to see all those seniors up there as well as that group of like 50 students involved in this. It was such a great, like, I think it was really great in spurring conversation as well as letting people know that they aren't alone in their experiences, as well as creating space for people to talk about things if they do happen in the future. We had like teachers, we had a lot of teachers involved, which I felt was a big part, like really encouraging and supportive teachers. And we also had like teachers prepare classrooms for people who didn't feel comfortable there. Like we had a lot of this like community, our school community, like involved. And I think that just means so much for like the future generations of ASIJ as well as for the students now. Yeah.
I completely agree with that. We had a lot of support. Like we were talking to so many teachers every day. Even though it's a student-led thing, I think we had a lot of support and guidance and a lot of considerations that if it was just student-led, we wouldn't have been able to cover. And so I'm really grateful. Thank you to Ms. DeLeon, Ms. CM, and Dr. Augustine.
I honestly, we did not exactly prep these Q&As, but you guys are like giving me a segue every time as if you're a plant, which of course you're not. So my kind of final area that I was going to ask you about to share with the parent community is I think that there is some natural curiosity and sometimes concern about, what's next. Like we have these discussions, what are we planning going forward in a way that is going to hopefully make students feel more supported. So can you guys talk a little bit about what you have planned for Thursday and then what you're thinking about going forward and how it's maybe also just give some sense of like how it has felt on campus since parents aren't here and they aren't able to experience it firsthand.
Yeah, so on Thursday during our normal advisory time, we're having breakout discussions with different topics and themes that students could choose from. So for example, we have an all boys discussion, an all girls discussion, an upperclassmen discussion, an underclassmen discussion, just so students could choose a room that they feel comfortable with going and having a productive discussion. Hopefully that'll continue the conversation and just help people process the assembly and everything that's been going on these past few weeks.
Enough is Enough also hosts its own discussions, which we're going to keep doing moving forward, and they're always open to everyone in the school. So we're hoping that just by having those, just inviting people from the school into those conversations, we keep it going. It's not a one-off. Our big thing was this assembly is not a one-off event. We're not going to talk about it once and then let it go. we're going to keep it in the conversation of the school. And you could definitely feel a difference within the student body. Obviously, right after the assembly, it was quite heavy. It was, you could feel the weight among everyone in the classrooms and the hallways and the bathrooms. And like a week later, that heaviness is not there anymore, which I think is good. We need to, be happier and all of that. But definitely people are way more aware, and it's not very explicit, but you can definitely feel the difference.
I think there's a lot of, I think teachers, like a lot of teachers were surprised to hear all the stories that were gathered in the video. And that, I guess, after these discussions, after the assembly, like a lot of teachers have shown much more like explicit like support for the project as well as this cause. And other teachers have just been like surprised or stuff like that. But like even among faculty, I feel like there is quite a difference in the weight of this discussion.
I completely agree with that. And then sort of thinking about the future, I think that's something that, to be honest, we're still sort of thinking about and figuring out. But like Sola said, we definitely didn't see the assembly as a one-off event. This is like a big group and we have a lot of momentum right now. But I think, we're trying to figure out how to keep that momentum in a healthy and positive way so that we can really leave lasting change, because we are seniors and we're going to be graduating in a few months. So we're definitely thinking about how we can pass it on and how we can leave changes that really stick with the school and not necessarily with like individuals, whether that be like the curriculum or the safeguarding system. Yeah.
Thank you guys so much. Is there anything else that we didn't ask you that is on your mind?
Not that I can think. There's a lot that we've been talking about. And I don't know, I guess I would say, I think it sounds very, like, it is a very concerning issue and it's a very serious issue, but I think another like message we wanted to share was that it's not like ASIJ is not an exception to this issue. Like, it happens everywhere around the world in almost every school, and it happens here too. And hopefully by starting this discussion, we can really make it like, or prevent these situations from happening and support affect people that are affected in a better way. So I think there's a lot of hope in what we're starting and hopefully what we can do moving forwards.
Thank you.
You really are, the four of you, like segueing right in, because I had a question, Moeka, you just nailed it. I was going to ask, you've been reflecting a lot over the last couple of weeks preparing this on your own journey and your own learning in this. And maybe you could just share with us what has been most hopeful for you, or the biggest takeaways in your own learning over the last few weeks and months, really, of leading this work.
There's so much.
I feel like the biggest thing for me is the amount of support that we got. Like it really just started as a conversation between us. Like, that was it. There was really nothing more to it. And as it grew and it grew, I was so surprised by the number of students that wanted to be involved and were willing to do anything to help us. The number of teachers, the number of, like, the amount of support we got from admin in doing this, like, all of it was really, really, like, it surprised us, and it made us feel so much hope for the fact that we can do something. Like, this whole idea of voice, we have a voice now and we're using it. You're letting us use it. There's people in the school who are adding in their voice, and the fact that there was this much support
is really amazing. Yeah, I totally agree with that.
Yeah, I just want to re-emphasize that we're just 4 representatives of this Enough is Enough group. There are like 40 or 50 of us that have worked so hard to do this, and it's so amazing to see how dedicated people are to this issue and how much they're willing to support, whether it's just coming to a meeting or writing a few things down on a document for us. Whenever we're like, oh, can someone help us with something? There's always someone willing to help. And it's so amazing to see that in our community.
Yeah. The other thing that showed me a lot of hope was the amount of gratitude that we got from people afterwards. A lot of it was students, but surprisingly, a lot of it was teachers. We got a lot of emails from teachers and other faculty that we've never even interacted with before, saying thank you for the assembly. Like we needed that. There was a lot of people saying, I had no idea how big of an issue this was. And as a teacher, I think it's so important that we do know. So we're grateful that you did this. And I think that showed me a lot of hope too.
I completely agree with that. Yeah. Do you have any?
Like on a more like personal note, like right after the assembly, like a day or so later, like I was with my friends and there was something that happened on the train at a train station, like right after the assembly too. And it was so disheartening, but like I was with my friends and a lot of my close friends are involved in this as well, which was, you know, such a great thing. And we reported what happened. And I think like in all this preaching that I do about like how to act right, how to be a good bystander, like it's so much easier said than done. And I think it was the first time I'd really reported anything in the way that I've always like preached I should or people should. I think that was a big moment for me. And like the next day immediately, like I come to school and I came and talked to my teachers about it, like, and they're all like, I'm so proud of you. And it was just such a like, I felt like I could tackle this like one slice of the patriarchy. Like I was really like, I felt really great about it as much as it was like disheartening. So I think even for us, like it's hard. This is a hard issue. And I think when you're a victim to sexual harassment or assault, like as much as you know about the issue, like rationally, like it's hard to act in a way that's most healthy and beneficial for you as well as the people around you. But I have really gained hope that I can be like a better, stronger advocate and that I do have a voice in the way that like I go about my life as well as how other people perceive it. So yeah, that was.
I love that. That's amazing. I love that. Yeah, that's amazing. And I hope we can keep sharing that with more people in the school.
You leave me speechless often, the four of you and the episode group. I think just to kind of, I know you all have advisories to get to and as you continue the work. And one of the pieces when you were on the stage moderating, when Ms. Ito was here, that I thought was so powerful was when you mentioned that, you know, this work is not about calling out the poor behavior of others only, right? Like this is about beginning conversations and having everyone in our community feel like they can be a bystander, be an upstander, right? That they can use their voices, that they have support and other people here who want to help. I thought that was a really powerful moment. And is certainly the work that you're doing and Enough is Enough is doing here on campus to say, it's not just about calling out, it's about how are we all in this together to make the world a better place. And it certainly hasn't been without problem solving and a lot of tough, hard conversations and logistics. But the four of you have just led with such grace and with such courageous voices that we're absolutely grateful. It's palpable, parents, that they said you can feel it in the hallways here. It's palpable, the difference that our incredible leaders are making. And we're just grateful to have you here for a few more months before the world is lucky enough to receive you at their next schools. So any advice you would give to parents? You've got a parent audience here of just conversations or things you'd want them to know, and then we'll send you on your way.
Wow, I think that's something we definitely haven't thought about enough. It's been kind of overwhelming, but that's a very important piece that we do need to be thinking about moving forwards. What do you guys think?
I think the only thing I can think right now is be open to having these conversations. We know, like, we really know how heavy they are, how difficult they are to have. We've had way too many conversations about this and they always leave us drained and tired, and it's hard to get into them, but it's still possible to talk about these things without it being super duper heavy, super draining. Like, it can be something that you just bring up at dinner, something, it doesn't have to be such a taboo topic. And I think if it becomes more normalized in conversation, it won't be this hidden and difficult of an issue to talk about in the first place.
Completely agree. But also like a little piece, like I think it has been a pretty hard week last week, and maybe this week is a bit lighter, but still a bit for some people. So I guess just like be nice to your children and like, I don't know. I think like most people are fine, but I think there are a few people that are having like a harder time. So just being there and being aware of that would be nice, I think.
Amazing. Thank you. Thank you so much. Parents, as you have, or if you have questions for the work happening with Enough is Enough, please do feel free to reach out to me or Emily or Brad. We can connect you, get questions answered as we continue to do this work with Enough is Enough. Thank you so much, friends, for being on the call today. If you want to drop off and have some of your downtime and your community time this morning, thank you. You're amazing.
Thank you so much for having us. Bye.
Bye.
Wow, Emily and Brad, we've certainly had the hard conversations and the work with these young people over the last few weeks, seeing them really take the lead and trying to allow this to be truly student-led with some guidance and framing has been it's been heavy work, exhausting work, and it's the right work. And it's been wonderful to see it happening here in this school. And I think as we continue our journey of giving students more voice, we're going to see more and more of these big issues that are really important in the world that are on our students' mind emerging. And part of our job and our responsibility is creating space for our young people to do that really well. And to do that with adult support around them so that they can have these highly reflective learning opportunities and work to solve big problems.
I mean, I've been in schools for a very long time and have seen few experiences like this where our student leaders really step forward on such an important topic and lead it in such a heartfelt, thoughtful way that engages the whole community, students, teachers, everyone. It's been wonderful just to be a part of, and we've helped, as Amy said, on the side, but they have truly led the whole process from the very beginning. It's been great to be a part of, and we know we have more work to do, and we have some great ideas and plans continuing this week and after spring break. But a really important topic that we are just proud to be a part of with this team, this student team.
Yeah. And before we do a little shift, take a big left turn to go on to our next topic, I just want to say a big thank you to the PTA as well. Our PTA Grants and Speakers program supported Shiori Ito coming and speaking with our students. The advocacy of our student leaders to have Ms. Ito join us really just started the conversation off on a great note for our school. We are looking to be able to screen the assembly. Working with Ms. Ito, we cannot share out the link to it. We can't make the link public, but we are looking to put together a screening of the assembly here on campus someday so that you can have a peek into the incredible moderation that our young people also did on the stage in guiding the conversation for our school. So we're at the halfway point of our Mustang Connection. The next half won't be nearly as engaging as the first part that featured our students were, but we do want to also spend some time today just chatting about where we are with our college and personal academic counseling move to our comprehensive model, as well as give you a course registration update. So if you're at home and your screen is off and you need to get up and stretch your legs, please feel free to do that as we transition into our next topic. All right. So this part's me. I do want to provide a quick overview of where we are in our counseling work. Our last Mustang Connections that we did at the end of January, we were setting off to look at how we would build our caseloads. And we were looking at several different models of caseload at that time. We spent a good chunk of February weighing the pros and cons of essentially three different approaches that peer schools have used or that we've used in our own previous experiences. So we looked at whether we wanted to divide up caseloads by using our advisory program. We looked at whether we wanted to continue with doing an alphabetical split where you take last names and you allocate 5 equal lane caseloads. Or we looked at one that was called the balanced algorithm, where using a number of different data points, we used our system, our Veracross system, to then create caseloads that balance across gender, passport, siblings, number of years at ASIJ, et cetera, a number of the data fields that we have in Veracross. And so in looking at all of those and reaching out to like schools and peers at other schools, we did decide on the third, which is the balanced algorithm. So then having determined that we were going to use the balanced algorithm, we had to build the algorithm. And we were lucky to have some expertise here at ASIJ and on the team that we were able to create essentially a master document that allowed us to bring in lots of information. The algorithm then allocated students for us in the junior class. And then we spent the last couple of weeks fine-tuning and further balancing that. So for instance, if you balance by passport, sometimes your gender identity can become a little bit off, or setting up the number of times that someone's length of time at ASIJ would move the balance off a little bit. So we were just doing some fine tweaking with our algorithms to make those balances. In the end, each of our 5 counselors have roughly 30 juniors that have been assigned to their caseloads. And, I just answered that one. And last night, at 5 p.m. So if you're a junior parent, do make sure you've checked your email. We sent out from each of the counselors to their families and students their allocation. So our juniors now have their comprehensive counselor who will be working with them next year in their knowing who that person is and how they can start to work together. The letter that we sent out to parents includes a little bit of a bio from each of the counselors, depending who you received, as well as the invitation to stop on by, start to get to know each other. We know that we have Emily and Justin already here in a counseling role. They're supporting students right now in personal academic realm. And we have Ryan and Tin, who are 2 of our classroom teachers or supporting counseling right now, that our students can stop by and have that opportunity to connect and to say hello. For our students who are assigned to Amy Carey, you'll see coming up on another slide. Of course, she's available by email, though she still has her caseload in Vienna. She's also going to be joining us for a week in May. And part of her letter to families was an opportunity to set aside some time when she's here in May to get to know her students and her families that she's working with. And so we'll have more details about her visit in May shortly to the families who are on her caseloads. So that's really where we are now for our juniors, is we want to prioritize this relationship building. So our students are reaching out, having those opportunities to have some of those informal connections and get to know one another. Their primary source of info and guidance right now remains their college counselors, who were assigned last year because they're here through the end of June and they're working on plans together. And we're bringing in that opportunity, as I said, to start to build that relationship and get to know the new counselor. For those of you who have children who are currently in 8th, 9th, or 10th grade, so they'll be 9th, 10th, or 11th graders last year, we have started the caseload allocation using our algorithm again, our balanced spreadsheet, to begin those assignments. We are going to now go back and do some fine tuning there. And we're going to share out those assignments in late May, early June. Primarily, for the fact that because Tin and Ryan are currently in the classroom and Amy's not here, also importantly, Justin and Emily have some deep relationships with several students who are on their caseloads, that with the shift in the move from 2 personal academic counselors to 5 comprehensive counselors will mean some of those relationships shift, and not wanting those students to feel like they're losing a person who's really important to them right now in their personal academic realm. So when we send out our course assignments and classes for next year, we'll also share out who the new counselor will be, so that families know who they could reach out to over the summer if they have scheduling questions, and so that once we launch in August, we have that opportunity for our counselors to start building the relationship across their entire caseload of about 115 students. As we mentioned, Amy Carey will be visiting ASIJ. We're so excited that she's able to join us the first week of May. She will be at that point reaching out to families who are on her caseloads as juniors to set up opportunities to meet. And we do have a couple of opportunities for our wider community to meet the entire team. So please do mark your calendars. May 3rd, which is a Japanese national holiday as part of Golden Week, we'll be at the ELC from 5 p.m. through 7 p.m. Our entire counseling team will be there, the 5 for next year, myself and Brad. And again, we'll repeat that opportunity then on Chofu campus the next day. We're just finalizing what time of the day to do that out here at Chofu. So if you want to join us in Roppongi on May 3rd, or you want to join us on campus on May 4th, Emily, Justin, Ryan, Tin, Amy will all be available for some coffee, some snacks, and some getting to know each other opportunities. And then, of course, the full team launches with their entire full caseloads starting in August of 23, which will be here before we know it. In the background, the new team is continuing to meet regularly. They are getting to know one another. They are establishing just how they're working together, how they'll be working together with families. They're learning together. It's been really delightful actually to see that team thinking about their programming for next year that they'll be bringing on board, and just the approach that they'll be taking with the 5 of them. And at the same time, we're working with our current college counselors to ensure that smooth transition. So we have our counselors who are currently meeting with juniors, collecting information. They'll be passing all of that to the new caseload manager or the new counselor of their caseload. They're working on, we have Big Kanto Plains College Fair happening on September 8th. So our team that has helped plan that in the past, helping to plan forward for that for the new team when we start the year next year. So there's a lot of that passover and transition and conversation happening here behind the scenes on a weekly basis too, to make sure that our students are well positioned to have an incredible experience throughout their 4 years at ASIJ. We will have some Q&A at the end, so if you do have any questions, feel free to pop them in the chat. But that's kind of just the quick rundown of where we are with our counseling right now. I'm going to pass things over to Brad then for kind of our final topic of today, which is our learning framework and course registration.
Thank you, Amy. I think we have one more. There we go. Just to give everyone an update for course registration happening, hopefully you've had some conversations at home with your students, your children, about their selections for next year. We've already done all of our presentations through our counseling team to all students. Those finished up first week of March. Students now have the rest of this week to make their course registration decisions. Some of those will involve conversations with teachers that they currently have. Sometimes they want to talk with their counselors again. Hopefully they're talking with you and everyone has a plan for their registration for this week. On Friday, at the end of the school day, we'll close the registration access to the portal, the student portal for students. So please do speak to your children and make sure they have all their course requests in. We've reminded them yesterday. We'll remind some more on Wednesday and chase down all of our students to make sure they have all of their forms in. Just so you know how the process then goes, when we come back from our spring break, we'll get some information out to all parents, and it will say your child has requested these courses. You'll have the opportunity, or you'll be instructed to say, yes, I agree that these are the courses my child is taking. We implemented that step as a way to ensure that our parents know what the students are selecting and that they're having conversations at home. Sometimes there might be an assumption around one course and the child has a one view and the parent has another view, and it allows for a conversation, which is really good. If there's an issue, the form will tell you can reach out to the counselor to have a question, to have a conversation, or to say there was an error in a request, and we can make some adjustments. We want to make sure all of our students have put in all their requests, and that all the parents have signed off on those requests before we start to build the master schedule. And the building of the master schedule does take us some time. We have somewhere around over 4,000 course requests. If we have 600 students and each student is requesting 6-7 courses, it's a lot. So we have to make sure we're trying to get as many students their courses as that we can. It just depends. I mean, most students, the vast majority of students get all the courses they request. Sometimes you have situations where we only offer one section of, let's say, jazz band and perhaps, let's say, AP Chinese. And if those two courses are offered in the same block, they only happen, let's say, in block 4, then a student has to make a choice. You know, you have to have some conversations. We try really hard to make the schedule and move those students around. If we realize we have multiple students who can't take both AP Chinese and jazz band in that example, we'll move the block from block 4 to block 5 for one of the two courses to free that up. We can solve a lot of those problems. We can't solve all the problems. It's just too many different unique schedules for our students. But we do solve the vast majority. So we did then in May, what we do in early and mid-May is we have conversations where the counselors are calling in students and saying, look, there's a problem. Let's try and solve this with some other options. You said your second choice was this. We think that would probably be a good decision to make because we can't make your schedule work. But you have a lot of individual choices that we only offer one time. But I said the vast majority of students, this is never a conversation. This is never an issue because their schedules work out just fine. And then last thing is that sometime in late May, we'll be sharing out with students and families what the schedules are for students. Just to be clear, when we do schedule that, when we send that out, we send out that your child has these courses have now been registered. It doesn't have information about like which blocks or which teachers or any of those things. It just says that, you know, you've been signed up for Art Foundations or whatever your courses are that you've been signed up for. So that's a bit of the overview of the process. Again, for right now, the most important thing for you is to be having conversations with your students and that you have all course requests are in this week, and that knowing that the week after holidays, you'll have a chance to review those course requests with your child and have about a week period of time before we have to have those confirmed. Okay, so that's a general overview of our course registration process. Amy.
Amazing. And yes, we're not nearly as exciting or interesting as our student speakers at the beginning, but that gives you just hopefully a little overview of some of the other behind the scenes work that's happening in the high school right now with course registration and our shifting over to comprehensive counseling. We are at the end of our presentation portion of this and are really hopeful that you might have some questions for us that you want to pop into the chat. We are happy to take questions that you have. And if we don't have any, you'll have more time as the sun comes out today, but we'll give it a little bit of wait time and see if there's any questions out there from you. Okay, as we wrap up, if any come through, I'll stop the recording, stay on the call if anyone has questions, but really do want to thank you again, parents, for taking time this morning to spend some time with us, to hear from our students and to hear about what's trending here in the high school. We're so grateful for your partnership. As ever, if you have questions outside of the Mustang Connection, please do not hesitate to reach out to myself, to Brad. If you have questions about Enough is Enough, to Emily, we're here for you and are thankful for your partnership. So with that, I'm going to stop the recording and wish you all a wonderful day.